Chris Hassel joined by Brady Quinn and Pete Prisco. Pete's week was so bad that he said we're not allowed to run the overall standings and your record from last week. How bad was it?
Sorry, I'm getting hot in here. I got to unbutton another button. I was so hot last week.
I think it was 6-9. You were hot, man. I'm going to give you props.
No, thank you.
I was so bad I moved us into this studio this week.
Yeah, we're in Studio B. At least you got the bigger desk, right? You got a lot of space to play with.
So I can list all my losers on that desk, right?
Let's start with that Titans-Packers game. The Packers are 3-point favorites. Danny Cannell was sitting right there yesterday. He said he sees this kind of the same way as Tom Brady and the Bucs. They get that late comeback, they win the game, and then they follow that up with another big win. You think the Packers do that too?
Short week tends to benefit the home team. It was nice to see Christian Watson finally come around and become the player that they drafted him to be. There's one glaring issue with this matchup, and that's Derrick Henry and the fact that this Packers defense cannot stop the rushing attack, in particular of a guy like Derrick Henry. So I don't know how good the Packers are right now. I really don't. I'm not sure what to take away from that win. It could be a turning point for them, or it might be nothing. And I think in this case, I probably need to see it in back-to-back weeks. I'm going to take the 3 points and the Tennessee Titans in this one. I'm not saying, obviously, that the Titans win this game, but I do think it's going to be a close game because of Derrick Henry and that rushing attack.
Just when I think I can leave them, they pull me back in, the Green Bay Packers. I'm back in.
Of course you are.
Well, I mean, you come back from 14 down in that game.
Rodgers was so good there.
Christian Watson played great football. I mean, he's emerged as a big play threat. The Titans are banged up.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm going to give the Titans a ton of credit because they didn't have Simmons, they didn't have Dupree, and they still had 5 sacks against the Broncos. But I think in this game, and I worry about the run defense for Green Bay. It's been bad all year. But I think in this game, Rodgers is starting to feel it again.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big believer in the secondary of the Titans. I think you can make some plays down the field. They played well this year, but I think there's going to be opportunities for them. And I think the ability to open up the passing game will open up the Packers' run game even more. So I'm going to take the Packers here.
I think it could open it up more if Matt LaFleur gives Aaron Rodgers the opportunity to call some of those plays, which apparently was a point of contention, even in the win this past week for the Packers.
Can we rewind when I said last week that I buried the Packers, that they were done? Can we rewind that?
Are you digging them back up again?
I'm like in Goodfellas. I said that earlier. I'm in Goodfellas. I go dig the body back up.
It's crazy. If the playoffs were to start today, obviously the Packers would not be a part of it. However, the first team ahead of them would be the Washington Commanders, and then it would be the Green Bay Packers at 4-6 based on current tie scenarios, et cetera. So they are not that far out of this.
And they win this game, and they're right smack dab in the
You guys
middle.
both like the under on this, right?
Yes, I like the under as well.
Tennessee games have been going to the under.
Yes.
It's early afternoon slate on CBS. It's tasty. Bills, Browns. All right. Patriots, Jets. Now there's an interesting matchup. Both teams right now would be in the postseason if everything ended right now. If the Jets win that game, they would tie the Dolphins for first in the division. And then you have the Eagles coming off that first loss of the season, playing undefeated Jeff Saturday and the Colts in Indy. Chris Hassel, Brady Quinn, Pete Prisco. Let's start with the Browns at the Bills. Buffalo would be the 6th seed right now in the AFC. They're 9-point favorites at home.
It's crazy to think that, too, considering they're a team that we look at as maybe has the best chance of winning a Super Bowl. They have a guy I still highly regard as the MVP, even though I know he's not looked at as the favorite at this point in time. But this matchup, based on how the Browns played last week, Pete, is a bad matchup. And it's back-to-back weeks on the road for the Brownies.
There's a lot of those this week.
I'll let Pete get into that. But with the way the offensive line played, it's a bad matchup. I think it's a bounce-back game for Josh Allen, a passing attack versus secondary that struggled for the Cleveland Browns. So it's a big number. I'm laying the 9 points, though. I think this was like 8.5 yesterday when we first started looking at these. Bottom line is, though, that the Bills will bounce back.
I agree. Josh Salvucci Allen will bounce back in a big way. Do you remember the movie?
What's movie?
I don't.
All the Right Moves, back in the day.
Who's in that? Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, yeah.
Okay.
And
they had a coal mine there in
they
Pennsylvania.
should have taken a knee. They took in that one. They should have taken a safety. They botched this. They fumbled the ball and they lost the game just like that. So he's Salvucci.
So you think they should have taken a safety?
No, they should have taken a safety.
Okay.
Just learn to take the snap. Take the snap. Get the snap. It's ridiculous. That should never have happened. But
it's hard to take the snap in those scenarios because your center is lower and he's tilted the way he is.
I don't care.
I'm
Practice
just saying,
it. Practice
I
it.
could see how that would have happened. Part of me almost thought, on the goal line like that, you might as well be back in shotgun and throw because you know you're going to get one-on-one coverage on the outside. And as good as they are throwing the digs, why not?
Because they give him time. That's why.
Well, time.
What if you turn the ball over? Oh, wait, they did turn the ball over.
that's why you don't
take
say
the snap. Just take the snap. But They will respond here. The Browns are awful. You mentioned back-to-back road games. They're back-to-back road games outside the division. Back-to-back road games. One going down south, one going back up north. Bad situation for the Browns. They can't stop anybody. Love Buffalo this week.
So the Browns are going to be a loser?
A big loser.
Okay.
But they're waiting for Deshaun Watson. Don't worry about that. He'll fix everything.
Well, you guys picked the Browns. You W&L'd them the whole way before the season started. And this is right about where you both had them at this point in time, right?
Yeah, maybe honestly like a game off or 2 games off so far. For the Browns, the early part that's hurt them is they lost the Jets. They should have won that game. There's no business losing that game. Falcons, same thing. Those are 2 more games, though, they should have in the win column. Those are ones that you can't afford to lose. You're not that good of a team right now. And so those are the 2 that I think
But you can do that with every team in this league.
Yeah, but you're up 17 points?
Yeah, the Browns,
13 points.
The Jets game, they had no business losing.
Atlanta, they didn't either. Those 2 in particular, they should have won. That's what makes it, I think, so hard to look at right now.
If Deshaun Watson played the whole season, what would their record be?
Probably a win or 2 more, I think.
Yeah, probably about the same.
Only 1 or 2 more.
Yeah.
So maybe around 500. All right, let's go to the Eagles and the Colts. Also a game on CBS. Where are we at with Philadelphia after what we saw against the Commanders on Monday night?
Their Achilles heel got exposed. They have not been able to stop the run the entire season. They played from leads, and so I thought maybe it has something to do with the fact that this defense is playing softer coverages, lighter boxes in the second half of games, and they're allowing teams to run on them, but that was not the case. From the start of that game on Monday Night Football, Washington set a tone physically. They ran the football. They ate up time of possession, and guess what? If you're Jeff Saturday, and based on what you just did last week versus the Raiders and what you just saw on tape, you're going to do the exact same thing with Jonathan Taylor. And I think the other thing is everyone's going to make a big deal about Jeff Saturday and him being there and them getting a win. You switch back to Matt Ryan. I would have picked him. I picked him anyway, even though
I would have probably picked him if Matt Ryan was going to play.
Regardless, like you played the guy who was there were 500 with Matt Ryan before he got benched, kind of banged up, and then Frank Reich gets fired. Like, let's not give it too much credit. That had more to do with Matt Ryan and finally handing off to Jonathan Taylor 30 times a game.
Can I have my pick back then?
No.
I can have that one back.
No.
I mean, I loved it with Sam Ehlinger, but now I didn't like it when I saw Matt Ryan starting a quarterback. And Jeff Saturday proved it's not all that complicated to be a head coach in the NFL. You know why? You lead men, you let your coaches coach, and you rally the players.
Have you ever led men?
No, I lead myself.
That's not true. That is not true. I will sit here right now and tell you, Pete Prisco is a leader of men. He's led many men in this CBS
I lead
office.
I lead you in
You don't
this
lead
show
me in
every
anything.
week. Every
He does,
week I lead you.
He does lead all
this-
the fantasy guys.
No,
though.
I lead you in this show.
Keith, Jamie, Dave. I mean, everyone.
Brady,
I'm telling
I
you,
brought
he
you
leads
out,
those guys.
I brought you out of your shell. You were in a
That's not
shell.
true.
Yes, you were. First couple
You
of years, you were
try
in a
to
shell.
claim that you bring out the Paisan passion in Italians. That's what you claim.
Hey, I've heard that line before somewhere, and then I heard it again somewhere else. He stole it from me. I think this is an opportunity for the Eagles to get back on track. And you're right, the run defense is concerning. And when you look at their...
Are you taking the Eagles in the point, or laying the points?
Yeah, what do I have down here?
It says
I have the
Colts down
Colts.
there.
I have the Colts. That's what I meant.
I was
Colts.
going to say, we're on the same side here, right?
Yeah.
Are we talking about this for a second? I mean,
Because of the run defense.
Right.
And anytime a team's given up over 5 yards per carry, it's a red flag. They do it. The Chargers do it.
they're not quite. They're like
The
4.8
Giants,
if you want to.
the Giants do it.
Yep.
I mean, these teams
He
are
rounds
all,
up.
Yeah. Well, it was going
It
into
was
the game.
yeah, it's probably worse now though after
Yeah.
Washington.
So it's just a bad run defense. I think Taylor will run the ball, take the Colts.
All right, let's go to the big matchup in the AFC East. The Dolphins are off, so if the Jets are to beat the Patriots, they would pull even with the Dolphins atop the division. The Patriots beat the Jets a couple of weeks ago. They've beaten the Jets. They've swept them every year for several years now, 13 straight.
Yeah, this line at 3, I like the Patriots in this case. I saw it inflated at 4 at one point. That's a little iffy. I do think this will be a tighter game than people want to give them credit. But look, away game for Zach Wilson, the Jets, in Foxborough, Bill Belichick, the way he plays against young quarterbacks, the way he schemes things up, it's going to be a problem. Give Matthew Judon and that pass rush for the Patriots a lot of credit. I mean, bottom line is those guys can get after it. They had 9 sacks just a couple of weeks ago. So I think this is when we're at 3 points. I'll lay those points with New England. But again, if that number gets inflated, I think it's going to be tight. So I'm probably on the other side.
Zach Wilson was terrible the last time he played the Patriots. Remember, there was actually talk about, wow, is he a bust? Is he this? And he came back and he played well after that. But I think this is going to be a tough game for him. I like New England. New England's defense is playing better, and that's the most important thing for them because we know that's who they are as a team right now because their offense is very limited. So I'm going to take the New England Patriots minus the points.
Here's what the Jets need to do to win this game. Run the football. All right, they've been known to be able to do that. I think you can do that versus the Patriots. not ask Zach Wilson to do too much, short intermediate pass game to Garrett Wilson in particular, and just play stout defense. Allow that front to be able to get after it, run stuff. Quinn Williams is great all year. Allow that defense to keep you in the game, and they'll have a shot at it. But that's their formula for success the rest of the season. If they deviate from that, that's where they have problems.
New England's offensive line is playing better in the last month of the season as well. Early in the season it was bad. They're playing much better, too.
Well, they've started to find an identity, too. I think that goes for Matt Patricia and the play calling. At times, you're watching and saying, that guy's out there just looking at the play sheet, and all right, let's do this one. Let's do that one. There was nothing building off one another. You're starting to see things complement each other now throughout the course of the game and a little bit more of a rhythm and sync to it.
I said before the season, if Bill Belichick made the playoffs with this team, it would be one of his greatest coaching jobs ever, if not the best. And if he's not that far off from doing it.
They'd be in if it ended right now.
It's an amazing, seriously, when you looked at the talent on that team, there's a lot of young guys who are playing, and they're getting better too, you know. But when you look at the talent before the season, either he brought those guys along quickly, which he's done, or they were going to be a disaster, and he's done a great job with this team.
To your point, this is the most competitive and probably the best the AFC East has been in the past 2 decades. When has the AFC East, top to bottom, ever been this competitive?
No, there's always been a couple teams that are bad.
When you think about their run, like this is that time where you're looking at a halfway point in the season, everyone's above 500. Right. I don't ever recall a time since Bill Belichick has been with the Patriots when the division's been this good.
Well, they used to pound everybody for 2 losses each per season.
And I'm saying different story.
Yeah,
now.
it is, for sure.
And they are tied with the Bengals and the Chargers right now. So those are 2 teams I think a lot of people are going to be looking at to jump into that playoff race before all is said and done. A lot of agreement there on the early CBS games. Agree on the Pats, the Colts, and lock unity on the Bills and the over 47, the Buffalo bounce back this week. Early slate on Fox. Rams and Saints, 2 real disappointments. Ravens, the heaviest favorites of the week, -12 at home against the Panthers. Bears, Falcons. Giants hosting the Lions. That's an interesting line. We'll get to that in a moment. Giants only favored by 3. And the Commanders looking to go above 500. They are at the 1-win Texans. Let's pick them. Chris Hassel, Brady Quinn, and Pete Prisco. And let's start with the Rams and the Saints. This is in New Orleans. Rams are 13th in the NFC. The Saints are 15th in the NFC. I think they were both in the top 10 of your power rankings when we started the season. Total disappointment.
They were. They've been big flops, both of them, and major disappointments. The Rams are done, okay? They're finished.
Are the Saints not done?
No, they're not.
Because they're
such a bad division. They probably are done, but they have much more of a hope than the Rams do. I think the Rams are finished. Now you don't have Cooper Kupp for at least a month. I'd be shocked if he plays again. Why would you? Let him sit out the season if it gets to week 6 weeks from now and he's still not all the way back. They can't block anybody. I do the spinning top of the week. You can make the Rams offensive line that award winner every single week. They stink across the board. And you know what? This is a moment where you look back and you say, we sold our soul when we got a Super Bowl ring. This is what happens when you do that, but it was all worth it. Well, it's not going to be worth it on Sunday because the Saints are going to give them a beating. I like the Saints in this one. The Saints still can play good defense. They're not great on offense. We know that. But the Rams aren't that good either on any facet of the game. I'm going to take the Saints at home.
And Matt Stafford at this point still in concussion protocol. You might want to make the case, too. What's the point of him coming back for a beatdown away versus that defense, especially the way the Saints are capable of running the football with the offensive line, the way it's protect them this year. So probably not going to see him in this game either. So for that reason, it's one of the reasons why finding out that news today, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be on the other side on this one. You're a lot more.
Yeah, you flip-flopped.
Yeah, but once I found out that news, I was expecting him to come back, maybe gives him a shot.
I had a chat with you in the green room before we came on.
Is that what it was?
I flipped you.
Okay. I give Pete all the credit. We'll give you an extra
We're going to
win.
go down together on that one, probably.
Well, that's more my concern, though, because it's not like the Saints have been lighting the world on fire offensively. I mean, Andy Dalton has struggled. There's even talks potentially going back to Jameis Winston. And then, outside of that, yeah, you've got some talent. And obviously, a wide receiver, Chris Olave, has been great this year. And Taysom Hill has been your guy. I mean, he's been kind of holding together this offense. But I'm not as confident as you that they're going to walk away with this. I'll lay the 3 points, but I still think it'll be a tight game.
See, I think the Rams are done. I think they packed after getting beat by a division opponent last week at home. I think they've packed their bags. You know where they're heading? Down to Mexico for vacation. Maybe.
Well, I think they're first probably going to go out of Bourbon Street if they really do feel like their season's over with. Then they might head, to the vacation
Bourbon Street.
destination. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that would help the Rams if that's the case. That would help the Saints if
It would
that's the case.
help the spirits.
Sure. Well, the Spirit will be drinking some spirits on Bourbon Street. Let's go to the Panthers and the Ravens. This line is 12. It's the biggest spread of the week, and the Ravens have quietly reeled off 3 straight. Not a lot of people talking about them right now in the AFC.
Despite all the injuries, too. I mean, when you really look at their offense and how they've been banged up at the skill positions, they've still been able to generate enough production to win some games. This is one, though, where look, the Panthers are still hanging around in games, and Deontay Foreman showed a lot. They can run the football. It doesn't really matter who's back there this year. They've been able to show, even when Christian McCaffrey left. Juba Hubbard showed up. Deontay Foreman showed up. I think this is just too big of a number. Bottom line, Baker Mayfield's now back at quarterback. I think he'll be able to help keep them a little bit afloat. He is the best quarterback in my opinion on the roster.
He's not in concussion protocol after what he did at the end of the game?
Someone should probably check him out.
What was he doing?
I don't know. Don't ask me.
I'm not. I told Chris before. I said, first off, what are you cheering like that for when you're not playing? If I'm not starting, I'm
you'd be over there sulking.
I would be sulking. I wouldn't want the guy playing in front of me to have a good game. I'll tell you that right now.
You'd be a great teammate.
I'll put it this way: if you're not playing, I don't know how headbutting guys with helmets on is going to help you get any closer to playing.
Right.
You're only probably going to get yourself injured or concussed. That being said, I'm going to take the 12 points. This number's too big. I got burnt on Monday Night Football, laying too many points with the Philadelphia Eagles. I will not make that mistake again. So I'm with the Panthers, but Ravens take care of business here.
Is that being selfish, saying you don't want the guy who's playing in front of you to do well
Sure.
because you want to play?
It is selfish.
No, it's not. That's reality.
Yeah,
That's how I am.
Selfish. It's
about
selfish,
me,
but
me.
it is about you. You're admitting it, which
You're
is
the
great.
most selfish human being in
What
America.
are you talking about? I'm not the one saying
but-
I'd be rooting against my own team.
And
I'm not
the
rooting
wheels
against
have
them.
come off the wagon. Are we even talking about this matchup or
Yeah,
what?
the Ravens defense has come alive. They have found something, and it was terrible early in the season. Remember how bad they were early in the season?
Yeah.
They're starting to play better, and I think this offense is awful for Carolina. That's going to be a difference in the game. It is a big number, Brady, and you've been on the right side of the big numbers. I'm going to give you credit for that. I'm laying it, though. I think they blow them out here.
Okay.
All right, Petey Pie. Let's move on to the Falcons, and they are only 1 game behind the Bucs, but starting to struggle just a little bit, starting to back up a little bit. The Bears, Justin Fields is doing some amazing things, but they're not winning, which I guess is good if you're a Bears fan. The draft stock keeps going up.
Well, draft stock, and look, they're covering some spreads too. They're keeping some things
Yeah.
close. He does look like he's the quarterback they drafted him to be. Granted, he's got to do it with his legs, and ultimately that's not really what you want to see. You want to see him be able to throw the football around the field. He should be able to versus Atlanta. I think this is one of those games too where he's able to get back on track a little bit in regards to throwing the football. I think this is going to be a tight, competitive game. Probably my least confident pick of the entire week. I like the over better than I do the actual spread, but I'll lay the 3 points with Atlanta here at home.
I'm going to lay the points as well. Remember, they get a little rested, too. They got a little more time. You're right about Justin Fields. He's improved throwing the football. He's just not to where he needs to be. He'll get there. But imagine having a quarterback rush for over 150 yards 2 weeks in a row and you don't win the games. I mean, that's incredible. So I think Atlanta will find a way. This is going to be if you like quarterback play, this is the guys who sit in the pocket and throw the football. This one isn't for you, I can tell you that. When do the Falcons, if they lose again, if they lose this game, do they go to Ritter at some point?
They should. I mean, at some point you have to start looking at and giving him a chance or an opportunity. The only thing I would say that debunks that is, they're watching Desmond Ritter every day. And at some point maybe they feel like he just isn't ready or doesn't give them a chance. And I know you'll sit there and say, well, hey, throw him in there. Doesn't matter if he's ready or not. They probably want, if he has any chance whatsoever of being the guy for the future, for when he goes in there, to be able to succeed. Arthur Smith's has done a good job, though, with quarterbacks.
He won't be as bad as what we saw from Mariota last week, I can tell you that.
Yeah, the throwing from his back, I'm not sure what that was.
He was awful last week. You are what you are. I mean, he's available for a reason. Everybody always says, oh, he could be a starting quarterback. You are what you are. He's a backup quarterback in the NFL. Time to play Ritter if they lose another game.
Herbert heading to IR for the Bears, by the way, so running back room gets a little bit thinner and maybe more on Justin Fields' shoulders. Let's move on to the team that beat the Bears last week, the Detroit Lions. They won 2 in a row, but look, it's a Lions team that has won 3 games, a Giants team that's only lost 2 games. Giants only laying 3 at home. Odd line.
It is an odd line. I'm willing to lay the points, though, with the New York Giants here. I think Saquon Barkley should be able to run against this defense. Daniel Jones hasn't been the most prolific quarterback, but even he should have success versus the secondary the way they've played this year. And it might be a game that feels a little bit more like a shootout. That's why I actually like the over 2 in this one. I think you parlay those two things together. But to me, this is a spot where I think it'll be a competitive game. I really do, but I do think the Giants are the better team. I think you lay the 3 points here, but bet the over as well.
Yeah, I'll take the Giants as well. I think when you look at what they've done with Saquon Barkley, he's been outstanding. I mean, he's put to rest any fears of whether he could be the same back, because he is the same back. In fact, at times he even looks faster, if you could believe that. He looks more explosive at times, I thought, in the last couple of weeks. I think he'll run on the Lions. You're right, though. The Lions will score some points as well. The Giants' defense isn't quite there yet. By the end of the year, they might be there, but they're not there yet. So this will be a higher scoring game, but I also like the Giants as well.
Giants now only a game behind the Eagles. Those two teams haven't played yet. They'll play twice in the last 5 weeks
Love
of
those
the regular
battles.
season.
Those are fantastic to be a part of.
Division
When you go
battle.
watch them, the tension in the air is amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. The guys agree on the Falcons -3, the Bears, and the Giants as well, as we recap the picks from Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn here on CBS Sports HQ. All right, there they are. Oh,
Forgot the Commanders.
why didn't you call me out on it?
I just did.
Well, there you go. So you guys have the Commanders and Texans. Washington, the forgotten about team, beats the Eagles straight up. And now, who's got them covered in this game? Pete, is that you?
That is me. I just think that their ability to run the ball will be in play here. There's another team, the Texans, who can't stop the run.
Right.
So you're going to see, what's Washington going to do? Same exact style of offense. They're going to pound it, pound it, pound it. And Brian Robinson's a good running back.
Yes.
He's not a home run threat when he touches the ball, but he's a good physical running back. I think he'll wear on them. And I think the Commanders, even though you're playing on a short week, out on the road.
And how many weeks is this on the
back-to-back on the road, coming off an emotional division game. I see why it sets up for the Texans. I just think they're going to run the ball and control the clock. I'll take the Commanders.
We call this a hangover game in the NFL.
A Busch Light hangover for Heineke.
That's right. Celebrating that big win versus Philly on Monday Night Football. But you just hit it all on the head. I mean, short week. I think you look at the Texans, which they've had an awful season. They will not be able to stop the rushing attack with Brian Robinson. But I don't know that the Commanders are going to be able to stop Dameon Pierce either. Maybe the angriest runner in the NFL. I think Davis will be able to do enough things in the passing game. Although the secondary looked good for Washington. Give them credit. I did not think they'd be able to step up the way they did. Maybe some of those were some unforced errors too, though. I mean, a missed face mask call. Quez Watkins, after a big play, fumbles after getting tackled from behind last week. Bottom line is, this is one where I'm going to take the home underdog and the 2.5 points. I'm not saying that Washington still can't win this thing, keep it close, but I think the Texans might be the under is the best play, but I think the Texans hang around this one.
Is this a freebie for us? Doesn't count since he forgot the game.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I'm distracted by the little devil on Brady's shoulder there. You got your old IFB just resting there.
You mean Pete?
Yeah, Pete as well.
I am the devil.
No, are we recapping the picks again, or are we going
You're
right
Sun
to the
Devil,
bump?
is what you are.
All right, we're going to recap those picks one more time. All right. So, Saints, Falcons, Giants. Those are the agreements for the guys in
Flip-flop.
the early window on Fox. Which one was the flip-flop?
Saints.
Saints,
Yeah.
that's right. All right, let's look at the late afternoon games this week. The one in the middle stands out. Cowboys at Vikings. Minnesota now tied for the NFC lead with the Eagles, but the Eagles would have the tiebreaker because they won head-to-head early in the season. Let's pick all three of these games. Cowboys Vikings on CBS, 4:25 Eastern Time. It's not prime time, Pete. It's later than last week. It's a big game, but it's not prime time for Kirk, right?
Oh, it's a big game.
But it's not prime time.
It's not prime.
He's won big games. He won a big game last week.
Won a big game last week.
He won a big playoff
but,
game
I mean,
against the Saints.
Is it more just outside of the 1 o'clock Eastern time hour? Is that more of what the issue is?
Yeah. Look, I thought last week was a big game, and he made some throws. He also got bailed out on a bunch of throws by Jefferson, so you got to give him credit for that.
Well, the officials were letting the Bills play with 12 players.
That's true. Players, yeah. But this is a big game. But the Cowboys are playing consecutive road games as well. And the Vikings at home are going to be tough to beat.
Yes, they are.
They can run the ball. Their offensive line has improved a great deal. They didn't panic when they fell behind, which is a sign of a good football team. You know, they beat 3 teams so far that had their backup quarterbacks in the game, so you got to look at it and say people were wondering. But I think you go to Buffalo and win. No matter what way you won, you came back and won. You were down 17. I think they're going to beat the Cowboys in this game as well. I think Kirk Cousins is going to play well. I don't think he's going to light it up. I think he's going to play well.
He's not going to have that glazed look that you
that'll
always talk
come later
about?
in the season. Nothing better than watching Rick Spielman do it when he gets mad at me for doing that. But
Spielman's got the glazed look?
No. He's when I do that to him about him. But I think they'll win this game. They're gonna go to 9-1. Think about that. The Minnesota Vikings are gonna go to 9-1.
It should be overly surprising though. I mean, this is a roster with a ton of talent. I think maybe it's more surprising that Kevin O'Connell's been this good as a head coach in his first year. I look at it though, and I think it's the fishiest line of the week. I really don't understand why the Cowboys are favored in this one. I think that's what bothers me in looking at this. I mean, I understand the matchup between these two teams. The Cowboys can rush, they can run the football. You could make the case maybe that's a weak point for the Minnesota Vikings based on how their pass protection has been at times this year. But this is one as I'll gladly take the home underdog and the point. I do think this will be a higher scoring game between these two offenses. If you look at two of the best wide receivers in the game, in particular Justin Jefferson, which I don't know, you feel, Pete, that to me was the best catch I've seen.
Oh, it was an unbelievable catch.
I mean, there has been a better catch. People want to say Odell
Knock
Beckham.
it down.
Helmet catch?
Well,
Super Bowl?
Still, no, this is better than that. This is a ball that in every single frame you see, you're saying this should be intercepted. And somehow Justin Jefferson at the end of that play is able to reach and bring the football into his body. So credit to him.
It wasn't, but I mean, that's a perfect example. It wasn't a great throw or a great decision. He just made a great play.
And
it was fourth down, too.
I would say, honestly, you can make the case that if the defender wasn't there, maybe the ball is overthrown. Right. And Justin Jefferson doesn't even get a hand on it. Mm-hmm. But again, bottom line is Vikings, I think, not only cover this, they win the game.
Christian Watson destroyed that team last week, Dallas. I think Jefferson's going to destroy him again.
Well, Jefferson, Thielen. KJ Osborne has really come on, too. People don't give him enough credit. Now with Hawkinson a part of that group and the way they run the football, take the Vikings.
Good team.
All right, that one's 4:25 Eastern on CBS. So is Bengals and Steelers. This is in Pittsburgh. Cincy is a 5-point favorite. Right now, Cincy would be out of the playoffs if everything ended today. So they need to play well down the stretch if they're going to get in and defend their AFC crown.
Coming off a bye, so a little additional time to prepare for this one. The tough thing is it's in Pittsburgh. It's not just the Pittsburgh Steelers defense they're going up against. It's also those pigeons that happen to also be roaming around on the field as that 12th man to deter Joe Burrow from wanting to take those deep shots. But look, Jamar Chase isn't back yet, although I do feel like they've kind of found their rhythm without him. This is one where I feel like it's a divisional game on the road. Maybe there's a little rust there depending on how things start off. I think Mike Tomlin has kind of found this groove now with Kenny Pickett as the starter. I'm going to take the points. I think the Bengals win, and they start to go on a run here, Pete, but I'm going to take the 5 points at Pittsburgh.
I'm laying it. I think coming off the bye, they're going to be ready to play and refreshed. And you know, the Steelers beat them in earlier in the season. I don't think that's going to happen here. The Steelers defense is better now. You know, T.J. Watt back, they're a better defense. And Micah Fitzpatrick is probably going to be back this week as well. But I still think the Bengals are going to be the one team that people look at in the AFC down the stretch and they say, watch out for the Bengals because here they come. I believe
Not an easy schedule, though. Only two teams with losing records the rest of the way.
That's
this
also
is one
a
of them.
really good team. I think they're going to find their way. I think it starts this week against Pittsburgh. I'll take the Bengals.
Okay, one other late afternoon game. It's a game that going into this season we probably thought was going to mean a lot more than it does. It's the Raiders and Broncos who seem to both be out of it already.
Both out of it already. And I think the tough thing is, you know, with the struggles for the Broncos, there doesn't seem to be any doubt, at least from ownership, even though ownership took over after Nathaniel Hackett was hired, that he's the guy moving forward. And Mark Davis has had to come out and defend the hire of Josh McDaniels and his job security, even though, they're one game apart at this point. So kind of an interesting difference between the two organizations, given how much both have struggled this year. I'm going to take the 2.5 points, though, and the Raiders. I just think they have the capability of being the better team in this instance. The Broncos offense has never consistently played well for 4 quarters defensively, even though they've been good. And I think they match up well with the Raiders. This is going to be a tight game, one in which I think it's a low-scoring game, and I'll take the 2.5 points.
Is Russell Wilson washed up?
No, he's not washed up. I think there's a lot of factors that play a part.
He's been a big part of it, though. He's been awful.
Well, the play calling hasn't been great.
No.
He hasn't played his best football.
Correct.
I
the
think
offensive line's terrible.
The offensive line is bad. They have not played well. And I also think there's something to be said for developing that chemistry with the guys he's throwing to. It's probably even more paramount and important for a guy like him, being that he's got to throw with timing and anticipation because he's not going to be able to see quite as well from the pocket. You know, unless they were booting him out and getting him outside, you may make a different case, but that's even harder, I think, on him. So it's a work in progress, there's no doubt. You've seen flashes of it, just not really what we thought we'd see.
I don't think Derek Carr is going to be crying after this one. I just don't. I don't think we're going to see a full
happy
set.
Tears, perhaps?
Maybe happy tears.
You don't worry, though. Forget that portion of it.
I never forget that portion of
Adams
it.
has come out and said it. Carr came out and said it. Josh McDaniels has alluded to it. clearly there's a disconnect in the locker room in Las Vegas where there's some players and there's coaches that don't feel like all those guys are about ball and they're about football right now. Well, that seems to be the running theme of what they're saying.
That's why you pay Josh McDaniels all that money. If you're a head coach in the NFL and nobody's about ball, you get rid of them. That's what you do.
Well, some would say that's the GM's responsibility.
He runs the show, basically.
You can't get rid of every single player that John Gruden drafted. But they already got rid of Jonathan Abram.
No, I get it. But again, I think the Raiders are going to win this game. I think the Broncos offense, think about this. There was no Jeffrey Simmons, Bud Dupree. They had 5 sacks, and they just mauled Russell Wilson all day long last week.
The play calling's been atrocious
the Titans
in Denver.
Yeah, but you also, the offensive line is terrible. You can't call plays when your line is that bad.
I understand that. You can make a case for that. And the offensive line play has not been good. The bottom line, though, is the play calling has been atrocious.
And Russ hasn't been good either. So neither has Derek Carr at times, by the way. Both teams have struggled. I think I'll take the Raiders because I think their pass rush will be able to influence the game.
Saw a Broncos account on Twitter, somebody that follows the Broncos, tweet that if they had scored 18 points exactly in every game, they'd be 8-1, the Broncos. Instead, they're 3-6. Because they haven't been able to do that. And doesn't look like the guys think they're going to do that this week either. No. Like in the Raiders, +2.5 in that one, and the Vikings +1 at home against the Cowboys. Prime time game, Sunday night's Chiefs-Chargers. Monday is in Mexico City, 49ers and Cardinals. Let's pick them. Brady Quinn and Pete Prisco are here. Let's start in the AFC West with that Sunday night game. Everybody that's in the running for that top spot in the AFC is going to be rooting hard for the Chargers here because if they win, then everybody in the AFC is going to have 3+ losses. Big task, though, I know.
Hard task. I mean, look, they played them close last time these two teams played. The difference now is this Chargers team is decimated by injuries. I mean, Joey Bosa is still not out there. They lost a couple of interior defensive linemen this past week versus the 49ers, and no Mike Williams and no Keenan Allen. And as you saw at the end of that game versus the 49ers, they just don't have enough firepower in the passing game to be able to overcome that. And then one step further, their offensive line, it's a patchwork group. They've got 2 rookies starting, Zion Johnson and Jameer Sawyer. Both have played well. Sawyer's still rookie, though, and he's kind of playing out of position at that left tackle spot for the injured Rashawn Slater. On the other side of right tackle, Foster Sorrell, who just had his first start this past week. They did everything they could to game plan around it. It ended up not being enough in the end. I'm going to lay the 7 points here with the Chiefs. I think they're able to cover this number until the Chargers get healthy.
Ready? Division over. It's done.
You're calling
right here. This game ends it. There is nobody else in that division that can catch them. The division's over. They finish them here. They go in there and they will put up a number. Look, I'm with you, Brady. I think the offense is so limited on what they can do for the Chargers. And even if they had some speed, they don't throw the ball down the field anyways. That's a whole nother aside.
First off, that's the biggest facade, by the way. If you go back through the years, as far as throws over 20-plus yards, it's been about 10% of their attempts. And it's been the way this year. It was like that last year. Like that the year before.
Dinkin Dunker.
Maybe if you feel like the intermediate passes aren't there, that's fine. But that's probably a product of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams not being there.
He's Dinker and a Dunker.
Because all they have to throw to is Eckler right now.
Got a howitzer, they turned him into
Everett
a popgun.
got hurt this past week, Gerald Everett.
That's what they did.
Tight end.
He's got a cannon, they turned him into a popgun.
He had a nice pass to
He had
Deontay
a couple
Carter.
last week, and there was progress last week. I'm going to say that. There was progress.
I think it has more to do with the protection than you realize. I mean, right now they're using on every single time you see them in empty.
I see it.
Watch the tight end. Watch the running back with the nudge on the way out. They can only use 3 out in the routes because they can't hold up the protection.
He's actually played really good at left tackle, by the way. He's not Slater, but he's played pretty well at left tackle.
He played okay. And then there's times when you got to go up against guys like Nick Bosa, and that's a challenge.
Well, I think the Chiefs will get after him in this one. I think they put up a number on him. I'll take the Chiefs minus the points.
Who would have thought right now we'd be sitting here week 11 and only one team from this division would be in the playoffs.
And
everybody in the AFC.
Remember, the SEC of the NFL. That's the
it is not
quite
turned out that way. Let's move to Monday night. This is in Mexico City. The 49ers -7.5 against the Cardinals. We'll see about Kyler. Zach Ertz out for the season for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I was going to say the Cardinals are without the guys leading them in reception, leading them in touchdown receptions in Zach Ertz. Now, I know he's not their leader once DeAndre Hopkins plays a little bit more, but he's still played a pretty integral, consistent part of this passing game for the Cardinals. So I don't feel great about this, but given it's a neutral site like this, and it's 7.5, that hook is kind of what got me. I'm going to go with the Cardinals here. I think they can keep this thing relatively close. I don't know that the 49ers offense...
This line reflects Murray not being in the game, though, don't you think?
To some degree. I mean, that's the concern. Is I don't know if it does or doesn't, because I also think you can make the case that this is a bad matchup. Even if Murray's there, it's a bad matchup for the Cardinals with the things that, obviously, the 49ers do well up front. to get after opposing quarterbacks, but also how they can run the football and all the different pieces.
Well, maybe it doesn't because Colt McCoy threw the ball better than he has last week.
Colt did play pretty
He
well.
played pretty well last week, and but I like the Niners in this spot. I'm with you though, Brady. It's a big number. It's concerning because you come off that that Sunday nighter against the Chargers, and now you got to go out and travel to
altitude
Mexico.
and all that stuff.
I just think that their defensive line is going to get after it,
Yep.
and that's kind of the calling card for them. Plus, they can run the ball. I mean, they can run the ball, and you saw that on
Elijah
Sunday
Mitchell
night.
coming back too.
Yeah,
Everyone
it gives
else
them a
from
different
McCaffrey.
dimension.
That's
I mean,
right.
so and they had them in the backfield together, and they had Debo and McCaffrey in the backfield.
They're doing all kinds of things.
They're creative.
Yeah.
They're creative. I know some other teams down in California that could borrow some from that. I like the 49ers. And I think the 49ers, by the way, in the NFC, they're the team nobody wants to see get going because they're the one that's going to be the most dangerous come playoff time.
Well, if they win this, they'll pull even in the division with the Seahawks, who are off this week. Let's get to the best bets from Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn. Pete, you keep going back to the well. Those New Orleans Saints, man, they were number 6 to start the season in your power rankings, and you just can't let them go.
They haven't been good to you either.
I've had the Commanders a bunch, and they've actually been pretty good to me lately, and I think the Saints are going to be good to me here as well. I had Pittsburgh last week. I was on the Pittsburgh Steelers were my best bet last week. I was on the opposite side of the Saints. This week I'm going back to the Saints. This is more of a pick against the Rams. I think the Rams are awful. I think they're going to be able to get after the quarterback, whoever plays quarterback. No Cooper Kupp, who they throw into. I think the Saints win the game and cover the number.
Big question mark there. I'm with the Giants. I'm going to go ahead and lay the points there. The New York Giants taking on the Detroit Lions. That defense has really struggled. I think Daniel Jones will have a good day. We talked about Saquon Barkley and the success he's had. And also, between the two defenses, the Giants are playing better ball. And I know Jared Goff in this offense, even without T.J. Hockenson, can put up some points. I think there'll be a bigger challenge, though, taking on the Giants.
If the Giants win this week, we almost have to pencil them into the postseason.
Yeah.
You'd have to, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, Brian Daboll, hands down.
Coach of the year.
Coach of the year. It's not even close.
been-
And for the Jets fans trying to put Robert Saleh, look, he's been there a couple years, okay?
Right.
This is a one-year, first-year coach
Yep.
that's turned around this thing from what
Mike
we looked at the
McDaniel?
Giants before. I mean, they weren't a losing team.
No, but
Vikings
That's what I'm trying to
fans
say.
are also
I don't-
saying,
okay,
get
how
them
many
gone.
people for the Giants had this outlook coming into the season?
Nobody.
Nobody.
No.
Nobody
Nobody.
did. It's Brian Daboll, and there's not.
I would pick,
another-
and I have a vote, but I would pick Brian Daboll right now.
Not so humble brag from Pete. I have a vote. So who would you vote for right now? Dable?
Daboll.
Yep.
It's not even close.
Only a game back
Yep.
in the division after that Eagles loss. All right, Pete Prisco, Brady Quinn, Chris Hassel picked every game this week against the spread in the NFL. I hope Brady stays as hot as he was last week.
That's impossible.
I
I'm
need,
not
to
that
get, I
hot.
need to get
I
hot.
think you're in for a
I was
bounce back.
5-1 with my best bets on the
There you
Pick
go.
6 podcast.
Okay.
5-1.
Yeah, what happened on here then?
Well, I had some over-unders and stuff. that I put in.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Enjoy the games.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.